So that's a pretty famous opening, right? Most of you guys probably heard that before. But actually, I should back up and say welcome to Tuesday's class, and hope everyone is doing well. Miss you guys so much, and thinking about you guys all the time, and really enjoying that we get to make these calls to you guys. So that's a big plus. Having said that, back to the music. That is the music of West Side Story, which is a ballet opera musical. Hard to put them into, hard to really categorize it. I mean, it's a musical. That's probably the easiest way. But maybe one of the most famous musicals of all time. Everyone's heard of West Side Story. There's certain iconic scenes. Almost every scene is iconic now that I think about it. Or we each have our own favorite scenes in that movie. So today we're going to talk about how the origin of West Side Story came about. Who were the writers? Who was the choreographer? Who was, stuff that, what makes something a legend? What makes it so great, a classic? So we're kind of going to talk about why this is considered such a monumental work and the origins of it. So let's start kind of at the beginning. A musical. Obviously, you need what? You need somebody who writes songs, right? As a songwriter. Well, in this case, the songwriter is also a composer, and his name's Leonard Bernstein. And Bernstein is one of the most famous composers of the 20th century. Like we've talked about Stravinsky, like we've talked about Philip Glass, all these composers. They're very important people. Bernstein in particular because he was so well versed in jazz and classical music. And usually, Stravinsky kind of dabbled in jazz, not to downplay that at all, but I mean, Bernstein really was a prodigy in the sense that he could play a brilliant jazz piano and brilliant classical piano like nobody else. Like he could play Rhapsody in Blue, and then he could play a blues solo like in the style of Bud Powell or something. He was phenomenal. So his musical brain was just, and he was also a brilliant conductor. Some people consider him, either their favorite pianist, their favorite composer, their favorite conductor, their favorite lecturer. He was just an amazing lecturer. I mean, the guy is such a genius. In fact, maybe we should just talk about him the whole class. No, we'll focus on West Side Story, but there's tons to go into with his life and how important he was in the 20th century. And while in the 50s in New York, he had Candide, which was an opera, going on almost at the same time. The next year, you had West Side Story, so a musical. So, I mean, he was kind of the king of New York in terms of music and culture, and, having an opera and a musical going on, that's pretty cool. So, and then he was also the conductor of the New York Philharmonic, so that's pretty cool too. Like he was just, so he had all these genres that he had mastered so well, and that's what makes him extra interesting, where he kind of said at one point, I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. And he said that as an adult, and which is kind of humorous and funny because that's, I think that was a troubling thought for him. He was too talented to stay in one lane, and when he was composing a lot, then he felt bad for not conducting more, and vice versa. And when he was writing musicals, on Broadway, his peers, Copland and other people would say, "What are you wasting your time for that kind of, Broadway rubbish kind of jazz, lower class jazz, whatever. You should be writing symphonic music." And then he would write symphonic music, and he would appease, some of the classical critics, but then it's hard to tell. He was that when you have too much talent, that's kind of, I assume that's probably a problem that he had kind of dealt with. So, so that's Bernstein. So let's talk about and let's watch some stuff from West Side Story and see what you guys think.
Dark-skinned, what you doing?
Shit.
Hey, Chicky.
Hey.
Hey, watch it, Jet Boy. Hey, Jet Boy. Jet. Come on. Beat it.
Chico! Allez, Chico! Allez!
Okay, here we go.
Jets! Hey, Jets! Let's go! Rocco, Indio! Let's jump him! Come on! Hey, Jets, come on! Follow me, baby! Come on, mira aquí! Mira! Mira! Hey, Jets! Jets, come on! Hey, Jets! Hello! Jets, come on, Rubio! Ven por aquí! Venga, hey, come on! Corre, explosivo! Come on, boys, huh? Hey, come
So that's the opening number that introduces the two gangs, the Jets and the Sharks. And this is probably poor planning, but I think we're going to have to make this a two-parter thing because I don't want to keep you guys too long. So we're going to start next class with talking about the choreographer, Jerome Robbins, who is a genius, Stephen Sondheim, who wrote the lyrics, another genius, and another genius, Arthur Lawrence, who wrote the book. So we're going to talk about those guys for the next class, and we're going to still watch a few clips, West Side Story, America, cool. We'll see how far we get. But for now, Leonard Bernstein's West Side Story, one of my favorite musicals. And hope you guys have a great day. Stay safe. I'll see you tomorrow. Miss you guys. Lots of love. Bye.